Hello students, now we'll start with our next chapter in history, that is age of industrialization. Now first we'll look at the introduction, then beginning of industrial revolution that played an important role in industrializing the different nations of the world. Then industrialization in colonies, that is we were a part of the British colonial empire, so industrialization in India, that is in colonies, and peculiarities of industrial growth in India, and then the revision. So let's start with the introduction.
During the 18th and 19th centuries, the Industrial Revolution in England led to the growth and emergence of factories, which in turn led to the growth of cities due to large-scale migration and urbanization. Let us now look into the nature of change in England from a pre-industrialized to a fully industrialized economy during the late 18th to early 19th centuries.
So as we all know that the Industrial Revolution began in England in the 1730s, but prior to that, as many of the historians have come to debate, that prior to the coming up or setting up of factories in England, the earlier period I have referred to as the proto-industrialization period, that is industrialization of factories. Before that, coming of the factories, manufacturing was still going on, but that was going on at a local level.
Non-mechanized means of production were common before the coming of the Industrial Revolution. The slow pace of pre-industrial England, quickened after major changes came about in the cotton industry. With the introduction of steam as spar, many factories were set up in different parts of the country. These factories used steam power to propel the machinery used in the production process. However, the old system persisted for quite some time as people were wary of the new changes. For quite some time, the circumstances compelled the factory owners to rely on human labor. Human labor was cheaper and more reliable as machines needed heavy maintenance. Handmade products held a greater appeal than mass-scale machine-made products. Thus, demand and cost of production remained adverse to usage of machines in factories. The artisans were particularly not happy about the new machines, and many men and women lost their means of livelihood as demand for labor decreased. The spinning jenny, nevertheless, changed the face of cotton production with its faster spinning rate and cost-effective output. Cotton mills were set up in England, which brought all the processes of cloth production under one roof. Separation of cotton from the seeds, spinning the thread, and cloth weaving could all be done at the same place, thereby minimizing the overall cost of production. These mills made use of new inventions such as the cotton gin and the spinning jenny to manufacture cloth at a faster rate. Meanwhile, James Watt, with his visionary approach, had already patented the steam engine in 1781 CE. After initial setbacks, the steam engine was finally accepted by the masses after it defeated a horse carriage in a race for speed. Railway lines were extended across the country and new stations launched to accommodate this new and faster means of transportation. 19th century England thus saw the rise of an industrialized age which had a profound impact on different parts of the world. The new inventions brought about rapid growth in cotton, iron and coal mining industries, foreign trade boomed, as means of transportation and communication became faster and easier. These changes made England powerful enough to colonize the unindustrialized countries of the world.
Prior to British colonization, Indian textiles dominated the international market. Prior to British colonization, Indian textiles dominated the international market. But British colonization altered the scenario. Now export of Indian textile declined and import of British-made cloth into India increased. From mid-19th century, India also witnessed the emergence of factories in the country.
Now, beginning of industrial revolution, that is again the period of proto-industrialization as I was referring earlier. Then we see about the industrialization in England that we also saw from the video just now. This video talks about how new inventions, how new technology shaped up the industrialization or speeded up the industrialization process in England. Now, because of the new technology, the hand labor which was used in various units now was transferred to machine power.
Proto-industrialization refers to the era when large-scale industrial production took place
In the absence of the modern factories.
During the 17th and 18th centuries, world trade expanded. There was a global rise in demand for goods, but merchants were unable to expand production in towns
because of the powerful presence of trade guilds.
Trade guilds. Trade guilds.
So what are trade guilds?
Of producers that trained craftsmen and artisans, regulated competition and prices in the market, and controlled the entry of new people in trade. They also had the rights to produce
and trade specific products, like how the East India Company had got the monopoly to trade in the East by the Queen. So similarly, some trade guilds, some companies had the specific monopoly of trading in special products or particular products.
Earlier, the peasants gathered firewood, berries, and vegetables. But due to the shrinking of open fields
and common lands,
they now searched for alternative sources of income. Merchants offered money to artisans to produce goods. The latter readily agreed, because while they could continue cultivation on their small plots, they could now add on to their incomes by producing goods required by merchants. This also facilitated family participation in work. The countryside provided multi-skilled people for the manufacture of cloth.
Wool staplers who gave wool, then spinners who spun it, then weavers who wove it, and then later on dyers who colored it.
Weavers who wove the resultant yarn before the cloth was colored by dyers, after which it was sent to London where cloth finishing was done.
So that is why London also came to be known as the finishing center, because everything, the cloth finishing was, packaging and everything was done in London. Now this happened because the merchants the new merchants who wanted to enter the trade were not allowed to because of the existence of powerful trade guilds. So that is why they had to move to the village or the countryside to ask the peasants whose income was already shrinking from them to manufacture for them. Now these merchants supplied them with money, so the peasants also readily agreed to do work for them.
The proto-industrial system thus provides between towns and villages. Merchants who lived in towns sent the cloth for production
in countryside.
Where cloth manufacture was done. The production chain was started from the merchant to the
spinners, then to weavers, then to fullers, and finally to the dryers. manufactured cloth in London. Now industrialization in England.
The earliest factories, which came up in the 1730s, witnessed improved production due to several technical inventions. These inventions led to an increase in quantitative and quantitative output. This led to the introduction of
More factories came up. Now coming up of more factories, what happened was that new centers or new cities came to or they sprang up. Why? Because people from the village side moved to cities in order to find new work or new employment opportunities for better lifestyle. So that is why they migrated from the village side or the countryside to the factories, where everything and factories were generally situated in cities. So that led to the urbanization of these cities.
Cotton production in factories was the first
Symbol of industrialization.
The cotton textile industry was the most dynamic of its kind. Earlier, cotton cloth was
Sorry.
in the countryside. Following the creation of the first cotton
Now Richard Arkwright is credited with the creation of the first cotton mill.
while all the processes of cotton production were managed together under one roof. This facilitated organized output and quality.
So now earlier the merchant during the proto-industrial period, the things were divided. Merchant had to move from place to place in order to get his work done, and finally the work was done and finished in London. But now with the coming of factories, all the things were brought under one roof. That is, your spinning, your weaving, your dyeing, everything was done under one roof. So it could be organized properly, and that is why output and the quality could be maintained or efficiency could be increased.
So the English industry was dominated by factories, while production in the bindings and workshops was forgotten. Let us now look at the nature and pace of the change brought about by industrialization in England during the 18th and 19th centuries. Cotton was the leading
Industrial sector till 1840s,
1840s,
followed by iron and steel.
iron and steel industry.
But later the expansion of railways in mid-19th century increased the demand for iron and steel, and thus the iron and steel industry took over the cotton industry.
Expansion of railways in mid-19th century increased the demand for iron and steel. However, traditional industries were still prevalent. Till the end of 19th century, less than one-fifth of total workforce worked in advanced industrial sectors. Textile output came largely
From domestic and not from industrial industry.
industrial units.
Till almost the end of 19th century.
Industrialization occurred in many non-mechanized sectors, such as food processing,
Pottery, glasswork and tanning was still continued in
etc., which was determined by small
Workshops.
ordinary innovations. But merchants and industrialists were hesitant to buy new machines, since the machines often broke down and their repair was costly.
So even the traders or the industrialists did not readily accept the new technology because they needed time. First of all, these machines were expensive. Apart from that, if there was repair to be done, it was again more expensive. So that is why, and they often broke down. So that is why they had to be repaired. So even the industrialists of those time were hesitant or reluctant to buy the new technology or include the new technology in their industries.
For example, the steam engine, which was improved and patented by James Watt in 1781, had no buyers for
Many years
Thus, the new technology
was gradually accepted by the industrialists.
We will now look into the reasons as to why manual labor was preferred over labor-saving machines. Industrialists preferred hand
Labor because
labor-reducing machines needed huge
capital investment. Human labor was abundant and cheaper, especially in England.
Seasonal industries like those of breweries, ship repair,
Bookbinders preferred hand labor because they only employed people seasonally during particular seasons
only uniform and standardized products were produced
by mass machines.
by machines. Handmade products, which were individually
Really produced and intricately designed, were again handmade.
and class. Hence, they were demanded by upper class.
Upper classes people or the bourgeois or the aristocrats or nobles who wanted special or unique designed items for themselves. They did not want the mass-produced items for themselves.
Machines were not used because Britain used 500 varieties of
Hammers and 45 kinds of axes for different kinds of work.
the tools were handmade, while the local labor was averse to new inventions.
Not used to.
Workers who migrated
Now, what was the life of the laborers or the workers?
jobs. Many workers were left unemployed after the busy season.
Over in seasonal industry
They spent nights at refugee villages
and casual wars.
During off seasons, the poor often
Ended up on streets
Some of them went to work
in the countryside and other did some odd jobs.
in odd jobs. The value of workers and the
Period of employment often fluctuated.
often fluctuated. The fear
Now,
of
what was the impact of spinning jenny?
hostile technology. For example, the spinning jenny, a new machine which
Could spin faster. Spindles.
was often attacked by women who had lost their spinning jobs. This conflict continued for a long time.
So even similarly, you can relate to it by the captain swing movement, which was in class 9th in peasants and farmers, where the people were reluctant to for the use of threshers because they thought that their jobs will be lost by them. So similarly, the spinning jenny also impacted the lives of workers in a certain way. Fear of unemployment made people hostile to technology.
After the 1840s, significant improvements took place. More job opportunities were created. Due to intensification
Of building work in cities, new infrastructure came up.
new stations were launched, roads were widened, and railway lines were
So
extended.
for all this, labor is required.
Drainage and sewers were laid while tunnels were dug. Rivers were embanked. Simultaneously, employment in the
Transport industry also increased. So there were various opportunities for employment for people who were coming from the countryside.
Answer the following question. The correct answer is B.
Now next is industrialization in colonies. That is, first is the Indian textile, then export process and European monopoly, the new ports, tough competition, and East India Company asserts control and effects on weavers. So we'll just
Before British colonialism, as Indian textiles dominated international market, Indian merchants and bankers were involved in trade of Indian textiles. Export of Indian textiles was carried out by land to Afghanistan
and even by sea.
and Central Asia, and by sea across the Gulf, the Red Sea, and Southeast Asia.
What was the export process?
To link the port towns to the inland regions, gave advances to weavers,
Weavers,
wove the cloth, which was then carried to the port.
ports.
At the port, the big shippers and export merchants had brokers who negotiated the price
And the goods bought.
goods from the supply merchants operating inland. European companies in India to secure
Concessions from the local courts by 1750s.
1750s gradually established their monopoly.
Monopoly over Indian trade.
This led to a decline in trade from the
Old ports of Surat and Hooghly and new ports came up.
decline
That is Mumbai.
dried up credit and bankruptcy of bankers in these areas. The new ports of Bombay
Calcutta, early Bombay.
thus indicating the growth of colonial power. As trade came under the increasing control of European power,
Companies,
the old trading
houses either perished, that is finished,
operated
in the network shaped by European trading companies. So they became small players in this European trade.
after the English East India Company consolidated power in India by 1760s. It wanted to export Indian textiles which were greatly demanded in Europe.
Europe.
However,
They had to face tough competition from the Indian weavers as well as some of the other European powers.
by weavers and suppliers created twin problems of difficult supply and high prices for the company. The English East India Company
Got monopoly over right to trade.
rights over trade in India, which enabled it to
eliminate the competition, control the costs, and ensure regular supply of cotton and silk goods for their own use.
To ensure this,
Now there were two-step method for it.
two-step method which had two aims. The first aim was to eliminate
The existing traders and brokers who were earlier involved, the earlier merchants, and now direct control over the weaver through a paid servant appointed by the company officials known as Gomastas. Now Gomastas supervised weavers, collected supplies and examined cloth quality.
The second aim
Second step was
to prevent weavers
from dealing with other buyers
This was done by giving advance loans to weavers
to produce cloth,
After taking the loan, weavers were obliged
to hand over their entire produce to the Gomasta for the company. And
for the company.
generally these the company procured these cloth from the weavers in a much more cheaper rate. So that is why they broke the supply, and because they wanted to increase their own profit.
Let us now explore the change
Now what was the effect on the weavers of this?
due to the monopolistic control asserted by the British East India Company.
Now demand for fine textiles expanded with loans.
Expanded
Weavers earlier eagerly accepted because merchants were not supplying them any loans or any money. So now if someone is supplying them, earlier they agreed, but when they found out that they actually could not make enough out of it, so they started becoming hostile towards it again. Weavers leased out their land and devoted their time to weaving. Their families also joined them
they soon found their lives to be hard and
in difficult life. Trapped with loans,
they were compelled to sell their cloth
cloth only to the company at low prices.
at low prices. Unlike earlier suppliers,
Merchants, Gomastas were outsiders,
called
impersonal and dispassionate, because they did not knew the realities of people in the village, because these Gomastas came from outside the village.
delays in supply.
Dictated strict business terms, used sepoys to beat weavers for delays in supplies. So these all conditions were kind of inhuman for the weavers, and so many weavers left their traditional or their hometowns and fled, or otherwise they joined some other
Weavers in Karnataka and Bengal deserted
their villages,
set up
looms in other villages, revolted along with the village traders.
along with village traders, while others refused loans, closed down their workshops, and became agricultural laborers.
Now British control over Indian industries.
Development of cotton industry. Industrial groups pressurized government to
To impose import duties on cotton textiles which were coming from India to
industries,
England.
persuaded British East India Company
Sell British produce in Indian markets.
in Indian markets. There was an increase in export of British cotton goods
In the early 19th century,
simultaneously drastic decrease in export of Indian cotton goods to Britain.
export of Indian cotton goods to Britain.
As import of British goods into India increased, the export market collapsed for the
Cotton weavers of India.
Simultaneously, the local
Markets also shrank
due to the flooding of markets
with cheap Manchester imports. People were no longer buying the more expensive Indian cloth.
weaving regions in India. The American Civil War broke out in 1860,
61
due to which cotton supplies from the US to Britain.
were cut off.
As a result,
Export of raw cotton to Britain increased more.
Britain increased, which increased the
Price
price.
of raw cotton in domestic market shot up.
Consequently,
The weavers also were forced to buy raw cotton at exorbitant, very high prices, which they could not afford.
there was mass production of machine
Goods in India.
The first cotton mill
The first mills in India
which came up
in 1854 at Bombay and started production in 1856.
by 1862.
There were some 4 mills.
Created the city. Meanwhile,
Jute mills originated in Bengal, first one being set up in 1855, followed by another one in 1862.
another one in 1862. The Elgin mill was opened at Kanpur.
In 1860,
Industrial production of cotton first came up
in Ahmedabad in 1870s.
in 1870 with the creation of the first cotton mill. In Madras, the first
Spinning and weaving mill in Madras began production in 1874.
1874. Let us
Who were
now
the early entrepreneurs, the industrialists?
of Indian businessmen as well as their attempts to establish industries in India. From late 18th century, British exported
Opium to China,
for Chinese tea.
because Chinese teas was imported to England.
Many Indians,
Were junior partners in this trade,
after
and they made their fortune being the junior traders.
industrial empires in India,
Set up their own industrial empires in India.
one
One of them was Dwarkanath Tagore.
after making fortune in China trade, set up 6 joint stock companies
Companies,
and attended shipbuilding,
mining, banking, plantations, and insurance.
plantations,
But his business sank during business crisis of 1840s.
but unfortunately his business sank during the business crisis of 1840s. Successful
Some early were Dinshaw Petit, J.N. Tata, and Seth Hukumchand.
including Dinshaw Petit, J.N. Tata, Seth Hukumchand, as well as the father and grandfather of well-known Indian industrialist G.G. Bill.
Bill.
Some Indian merchants also
Traded with Burma, Middle East, or Africa.
other commercial groups, although not directly involved
In external trade, but they operated in India.
India as carrier of goods, bankers, transferred funds between cities,
Financing traders,
traders,
so kind of a service sector.
and set up factories when
Opportunities
opportunities
of investment in industries arose.
during colonial rule,
Trade and Indian merchants.
control over Indian trade was very strict. Indian merchants were barred from
Trading manufactured goods with European countries and shipping
or in the shipping industry. They were, however,
allowed only to export raw materials that was required by the European or the English industries.
till 1914. European managing
Agencies controlled large sector of Indian industries.
industries. They mobilized capital, set up of joint stock companies,
And their management,
while the capital came from India,
India, but the Europeans,
done by the Europeans,
investment was done by the
changes
Europeans,
economies which Indian business
could not join. So again, there was a kind of discrimination here between the Indians and European merchants.
We will now see from where were factories in India
Then from where the factory workers came.
into the problems faced by the latter while searching for jobs in factories. As factories expanded,
Demand for workers also increased.
workers increased, majority of whom arrived from
Adjoining villages and districts.
For example, majority of workers in Bombay cotton industries
Right
arrived
from Ratnagiri to Bombay Cotton Industries,
likewise, Kanpur mills employed laborers
from adjoining villages.
as news of employment
Spread, workers traveled great distances to work in mills.
to work in mills. Workers from United Provinces
Went to work in Bombay and Calcutta.
and Calcutta. As the number of workers
This exceeded that of available jobs
there was a continued job crisis
in the society.
industrialists were restricted
Entry of workers in mills.
to mills, appointed jobbers to get new recruits from the countryside.
Now, jobber was a person employed by the company who was in charge to appoint new or get new recruits for the company.
The jobber
That is the role of a jobber.
and trusted worker of the industrialists brought people from his village
And ensured them jobs.
He helped them to settle in the city and also
Provided them money in times of crisis.
times of crisis. As a result, he attained both authority.
And power
He demanded money and gifts
for favor.
and
Control the worker's life.
Answer the following question. The correct answer is B.
Now, next is peculiarities of industrial growth in India.
European managing agencies invested in sectors such
Like tea, coffee and plantations, mining and indigo and jute.
mining, indigo, and jute, all of which were highly demanded in the international market. These commodities were produced primarily for export and not for domestic use.
So most of the products which were produced or were having a demand in the industrial market or the international market in Europe were only produced.
Indian businessmen who set up industries in the late 19th
Century
avoided competing
with Manchester goods because they were of better quality as well as cheap in prices.
as the yarn that was imported was of superior variety. The yarn produced in India was either used by Indian weavers or exported
to China.
During the early
20th century,
as the Swadeshi movement
mobilized people,
Indian masses
foreign cloth was boycotted,
was boycotted. Simultaneously,
export of Indian yarn to China declined,
declined. As a result, Indian industries
shifted from yarn to cloth production.
yarn to cloth production.
When the First World War broke out in 1914, British mills were busy producing for army needs, which resulted in decline of British imports to India. Indian industries
And this was a time that Indian industries got a golden opportunity to increase their output.
As a result, new factories were launched all over India. New workers were recruited and all were made to work for longer hours. After the war, due to the crumbling of the British economy, Manchester Industries
Could not regain its again supremacy in the dominant position.
in the Indian market. Ultimately, Indian industries grew and captured the domestic market as foreign goods were substituted for Indian goods. Indian industries, most of whom were located in Bengal and Bombay, grew steadily after the war. Industrial production was, however, dominated by small-scale producers in rest of the country.
Only a small amount of labor force worked in factories in India.
Majority worked in small workshops and household units in alleys and by-lanes.
Units in alleys and bylanes.
During 20th century, handicrafts industry, especially handloom industry, survived and expanded production through the use of new and cheap
Flying shuttle
technology.
or fly shuttle, one of the major inventions which helped weavers expand production.
However, weavers who produced coarse cloth for poor perished in competition, especially when the poor had nothing to buy or eat during famine, which however did not affect production of finer cloth like Banarsi saris, Madrasi lungis, etc.
Weavers who lived in
Poverty, spent hard lives and worked for longer hours. Entire family had to work at various stages of production process, and their life and labor integral to industrialization process.
stages of the production process. However, their life and labor was integral to the process of
Sorry.
in the country. We will explore
Now, marketing strategies which were used, like advertising, how different products were made popular
advertisements are useful as they make products look desirable
and necessary,
Key role of advertisements include the expansion of markets,
and shaping new consumer culture.
shaping a new consumer culture, which would necessitate the purchase of that product. During colonial rule,
Now, use of labels like "Made in Manchester"
in Manchester were put in cloth that was exported from Britain to India to increase the buyer's confidence about the quality
of cloth. Use of
Images of God
god and goddesses
were also used to attract the common man to purchase the cloth. By late 19th century, calendars were used for advertising products because they were very popular, as it presented the language of the common masses who were largely illiterate. Calendars were used in homes and workplaces like shops and offices. Therefore, advertisements in these calendars were read daily. Images of
gods
gods were
also used here to sell products.
Apart from gods,
Use of royalty
royal personalities like kings, emperors,
and nawabs.
were also used to adorn advertisements and
Calendars.
The message often given through the use
If one respected royalty, then one respected product.
respected royalty, then one also respected the product. Items were presumed to be of good
Quality as they were used by the royal personality. Even in today's world, how different film stars and sports stars advertise their different products, and we as common people are led to influence or believe that they also might be using that product. So, similar strategies were used earlier also. From there only it began.
During the nationalist movement, Indian manufacturers used nationalist messages for sale of their goods. Advertisements thus became vehicles to promote Swadeshi nationalism.
Now this image again shows here the image of India, right? So these images were used to create a sense of nationalism as well as like if they are buying this product that is made in India, they are also contributing towards nationalism or national feeling. So that is all for this chapter. Thank you so much.